The most intelligent way to win a war is to avoid the battles you would lose. Find the hill that no one's watching and take it. One company built an empire doing exactly that. They sold playing cards, then they conquered your living room with toys. There are a lot of videos on this company and they all hand you the same glow up. A little card shop from Kyoto, then Mario, then the Switch, roll credits. Feel good, tidy, and it skips the part that really matters. Because right before this company became a legend, again, it was a punchline. Its big console sold 20 million units. Now, that sounds like a lot, but it was not. The competition more than tripled that, and Wall Street analysts were saying it out loud. Just quit hardware. You are a toy company in a tech war. Make your Mario games for somebody else's system and just go home. So what do you do when you're getting your doors blown off in the one fight that's supposed to count? Well, you don't fight harder. This company just walked off the battlefield, and what they did next is a move almost nobody copies because almost nobody believes it works. So stick around. By the end of this, you'll have a play you can run the next time that you're outgunned at your job, in your business, or anywhere somebody's told you to compete on their terms. Let's get into it. Here's that number for your back pocket, 13.5 million. Now, that's an important number in this story, but it is not a measure of success. We'll come right back to it. So it's 1885, Kyoto, Japan. A man named Fusajiro Yamauchi opens a little shop making hanafuda, hand-painted flower cards. And for about 70 years, that's the whole company. Cards. They get good at it. They're the biggest card maker in Japan, and they even get a licensing deal with Disney in 1959. But the boss by then, a young hothead named Hiroshi Yamauchi, takes one look at the card business and sees a ceiling, not a floor. So he starts swinging at different ideas. Instant Rice, a taxi company, and I am not making this up, a chain of by-the-hour love hotels. As you would expect, every single one of them flops spectacularly. The company is damn near broke at this point, and the whole flailing and failing and throwing spaghetti at the wall, that's the part that everybody edits out. But it's exactly where the whole philosophy is born. Because one day Yamauchi is walking through the factory floor and he spots a maintenance guy, Gunpei Yokoi. He's just goofing around with a little extendable grabber claw thingy he was killing time with while he was on break. Yamauchi points at it and says, "Make that." "Yes, sir." Well, they sell it as the Ultra Hand, and it is a smash. And just like that, the card company is now a toy company. And toys lead to electronic toys, and electronic toys lead to arcade machines. Now it's 1981, and Nintendo's tiny American arm has bet the farm on an arcade game called Radar Scope, and it's a spectacular failure. 2,000 cabinets sitting dead in a warehouse. So they hand this whole mess to a young designer that no one's ever heard of, Shigeru Miyamoto, and they tell him, turn these dead machines into something, anything, salvage this somehow. He builds a game about a barrel-chucking gorilla and a little jumping carpenter. You know the carpenter. His name's Mario. And yes, before he joined his brother and became a plumber, he was a carpenter. Now Donkey Kong doesn't just sell, it saves the American company, and it mints the most famous character the video game medium would ever have out of a warehouse full of failure. And from there, an absolute rocket ride. The Nintendo Entertainment System hauls the entire American video game business out of the smoking crater that was the 1983 crash and sold 62 million consoles. For those of you unfamiliar, that's the gray box that your big brother wouldn't let you touch. The one where you blew into the cartridge just to get the dust off of the contacts. Yeah, that one. And then they came out with the Game Boy, and that sold 118 million. Now hang on to that Game Boy too, by the way, there's a clue in there. Now the SNES and the N64, for a good long while, Nintendo just isn't in the game. Nintendo is the game. And then the ground shifts under them. Sony shows up with a PlayStation, a disc-based system. Microsoft spends billions on the Xbox. And now the war is not about fun anymore. It's about horsepower. Sharper graphics, faster chips, bigger, louder, more. And Nintendo, the card shop, the toy company, well, of course they try to keep up. They built the GameCube, and they get clobbered. Last place, dead last. And the obituaries write themselves. Nintendo should quit hardware. Nintendo's a toy company in a tech war. Nintendo is done. So what's the deal now? We're coming right back around to what I said at the beginning. Nintendo looked at the graphics war, that it was losing badly, and it just refused to fight. While Sony and Microsoft bled each other white by scraping over the hardcore gamer on the same hill, Nintendo walked downhill to the field nobody was guarding. Everyone else. Your mom, your grandma, your uncle. People who'd never touched a controller before, and they were a little scared of the things. It's too many buttons. That was the Nintendo Wii system. 101 million units sold. And for a couple of years, it outsold the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 combined. The company everybody buried just lapped the whole industry by refusing to run that race. Now, the part that makes it a principle and not a fluke, this wasn't the first time. So the maintenance guy, Gunpei Yokoi, the Ultra Hand guy, he had a name for this. He called it lateral thinking with withered technology. In plain English, that means take cheap, boring, old, proven technology and use it in a way that nobody else thought of. Don't outspend on the frontier, sidestepping. And that's the Wii. And that's the Game Boy. The Game Boy had a chip from the 70s that buried flashier, full-colored rivals because it was cheap and the batteries ran forever. That's the whole company all the way back to the flower cards. Now, that number I told you to hold on to, 13.5 million, this is where it's relevant. Right after the Wii, Nintendo got a little bit confused and a little bit cocky. So in 2012, they broke their own rule. They chased and made the Wii U. So they half-copied a tablet concept that everybody else seemed to be chasing at the time, so that put them on somebody else's turf. And it cratered. 13.5 million, one of the worst flops in their history. The one time they fought on the contested hill instead of finding their own space, they just lost, just period. That's not a footnote, that's just proof of the concept. And when they went back and remembered who they were, 2017, the Nintendo Switch, a console that's also a handheld, something no one else was making. And that sold 135 million units, the best-selling thing Nintendo has ever made, past even the DS. And now the Switch 2, barely a year old in 2026, has already blown past the entire Wii U disaster in months. Same move every time. Find the hill nobody's watching and take it. So how do we convert that into something usable? Well, Nintendo almost never had the best machine. It never had the fastest chip or the sharpest screen, and certainly not the deepest pockets. Now, more than once, they lost that race on purpose because the move that saved them over and over was never running faster on the same track. It was quietly stepping onto a different one. And I have burned years of my own life trying to win races I was never going to win, grinding to be a slightly better version of the guy standing right next to me, and it is an exhausting trap to fall into. So here's the better question. Where's the field where your weird, cheap, been-there-forever strength suddenly counts double? Where is that hill that no one is bothering to defend? See, you don't have to be the strongest player in the room. You have to pick the right room. When you can't win the race that everybody's running, you need to run a different race. Wrap your own skill set around that thought and see where it brings you. Next time on Biz Boom Bust, we're going to stay with the empires that looked untouchable and walk into the diamond business. One company, one slogan, and the most successful manufactured tradition in human history. How De Beers convinced the entire world that a shiny rock you'll never resell is the one thing you're supposed to drop 2 months' salary on. You're going to love how this one's built. So until then, find your hill. We'll see you next time.